This is reminding me of a story of my mom's grandparents. I think it might have been her aunt and uncle, but it was an older couple in her life when she was a girl. And they had completely different political views, and they were married. And when it came to be around election time, they would argue and just fight all the time, yelling at each other. And then they would vote. And then the next day they would be totally in love, never talk about it again for 4 years. And they were just two people that lived in this house together and had like completely different views, but found a way for it to not affect their marriage in a way that bothered them. And I think they both just felt good about canceling each other out. And then they weren't so political that it affected their everyday life. And I just find that really interesting. And I think there are some friendships where you know that you disagree on something and you decide not to talk about something, or you decide the frequency that you're going to talk about it. And I think there can actually be some safety in that. And that's sort of a moment of propriety where you're deciding not to talk about it today. Yeah.
You bring up so many interesting things. I'm like having to remember all. So you just made a statement that in a friendship, you can decide not to bring up things, or the frequency. And I'm not sure if one was replacing the other, but it really struck me that there's a gigantic difference between those two things. And I don't know if you were to mean never bring up difficult things, at least for me, I find it like that's not a very good friendship. However, the frequency thing is just a fascinating question in and of itself. You can have too much conflict, obviously, but to get the temperature, nobody ever says this, and nobody ever like articulates the concept out loud in a friendship of like, how much conflict? Am I okay with conflict like 5% of the time? 2%? It's probably not much more than that. 10 is like the max percentage I can imagine. Quantifying again. But nobody discusses it, but it's a very good question. It almost would be one of those like core questions of you're going to see people's compatibility as friends or relationship partners, whatever, to know that, because it seems like the couple in your story were okay with heated conflict every 4 years for, I don't know, a month or two, or however long the intensity of the election was taking place in their household. But that is something that is rarely agreed upon, but is very important. And I do think for many relationships, the answer is like almost none is acceptable. Like it's bad to have even any conflict. And that I would say is unhealthy.